Welcome to episode number 104 of the Backlot 605 podcast. I'm your Huckleberry. I'm Casey Calderman. Joined with me is the other Huckleberry to the show, Brian Mensing.
I'm the Huckleberry too.
You're the Huckleberry too. We're not schmucks this week, Brian. We're Huckleberries.
I'm okay with that.
I was thinking of so many ways to intro this episode. I'm like, well, there's only one, and there's only one line to use from this movie, and it's from Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday from Tombstone, which is today's movie of choice, kicking off our Kurt Russell series. And as you can see, if you are watching on YouTube or if you're listening, you have no idea what I'm about to do. But I'm going to introduce this week's guest, which is Lou from the Local Lou podcast.
Hi, guys.
Is also from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, our home city, our place of origin that we record these remotely from. So, Lou, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Super excited to be here.
Absolutely. Let's start off first with your show. Give a little introduction to the Local Lou podcast and what it's all about and what you do.
Sure. I have a podcast called Local Lou, and I kind of go around to different historical markers in and around South Dakota. I read them and kind of look into them a little bit and tell you guys about them. I'm on Instagram at Local Lou Podcast.
Awesome. I'm glad we have a historian of sorts on the show for a historical type of movie. This is perfect.
Very amateur historian.
We'll get to see how wrong they really were.
Hey, it's okay. Me and Brian are just amateur film watchers anyway. So.
Pretty much.
We just have microphones. That's the only thing that sort of makes us official on this. But Brian, before we get into Tombstone and this week's show, we're doing Kurt Russell month. Why are we doing Kurt Russell month for November?
Well, can we just say we're doing Kurt Russell month because, well, it's Kurt Russell and
you're right. No explanation is needed.
There shouldn't be Kurt Russell. There shouldn't be a reason, but there is a reason. The reason why we're doing Kurt Russell this month is at the end of this month, we get to see Mr. Kurt Russell with the big, huge beard and strapping on Santa's boots once again for the Christmas Chronicle 2 for Netflix. And for anybody who hasn't seen Kurt Russell play Santa Claus before, go watch the first one because it's fantastic. But I do want to say is the fact that since he's bringing in real life wife to play Mrs. Claus in the sequel, makes me even want to watch it even more than I did the first time.
Yeah, that like last scene of the first Christmas Chronicles is like a Marvel Universe after credit scene of sorts when they're because it's kind of sort of building up to who Mrs. Claus is, and you're like, oh wait, I bet I know who it is, and of course it is Goldie Hawn, and I'm like, yeah, that's perfect.
Like for the sake of Kurt Russell playing Santa Claus, like nobody else I think should have even been allowed to play Mrs. Claus in that respect. Like Goldie Hawn was perfect for it.
Yes. So, yeah, that is why we're doing Kurt Russell month. We're going to be talking Kurt Russell movies for the entire month of November. I think we'll, of course, throughout all of this, we'll talk about many Kurt Russell movies, but we are kicking off with Tombstone here in the second half of the show. But before we get into that, let's go to the box office for this week because I'm a little surprised by the box office numbers here coming in. Number one was Come Play, a new horror movie. Took in $3.15 million here in its first week out. So it stars Gillian Jacobs. She was in Community, is probably what she's most known for. I remember this trailer did come out a while ago before the world ended. But I'm glad it did come out. And I mean, at least for the Halloween season, it is getting eyes on it in theaters, as many as it probably could during this time.
Hey, the fact that it beat out, Taken 47, it's saying something. Mm-hmm. But this is one of those things that if there was a trailer before March of this year, I had no idea that this movie existed until within the last week or two. Like It was just completely off of the radar. And until last week, I'm like, I didn't even know this was even a thing. I've never watched Community, but the stuff that I've seen her in, I've enjoyed, and so I am intrigued to see what this movie is about.
Man, Brian, first watch Community. It is one of the greatest comedy shows ever. I love it so much, and she's great in the show too. Lou, what do you think of this? Do you keep track of the box office at all? Is this a surprise to see a horror movie with not much marketing behind it at number one?
Well, once I watched the trailer, it's not surprising. It looks really cool. Any movie that uses a kid as like a supernatural portal always freaks me out, like Poltergeist and Sixth Sense. Kids are freaky enough without ghosts and spirits. So there's something about that really just grabbed me, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, I did not go check it out this weekend. I was, South Dakota numbers of COVID are going up, and I'm like, I'll just stay home and break open my Friday the 13th box set that I got a month ago. So, yeah, but I would like to check this one out, maybe a VOD at some point. But
that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah, it seems like a VOD movie anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the only reason it's number one, came out during Halloween weekend. No other real horror movies are in the box office at this time. Number two, though, is Honest Thief, last week's number one, $1.35 million. Liam Neeson still sticking around that top five.
Just like an old man, you just can't get him to leave sometimes.
Grandpa, it's time to go. Stop acting in movies, Grandpa.
The good thing is if he ever forgets his lines, he can just do a line from any movie he's done in the past 10 years, and it'll probably work.
You are not wrong.
He can say whatever line. It's just every other character in the movie has to make sure, okay, what's the name of Liam Neeson's character this time? I just need to make sure I get that right.
Mm-hmm.
Number three is another Grandpa in the box office. This is The War with Grandpa, taking in just a little over $1 million this past weekend. Robert De Niro still sticking in that top five to my surprise, but again, it's the only comedy in theaters. I guess if you want to get the family out to watch these, it's probably the closest thing you have to a family movie out right now too. And yeah, number three for The War with Grandpa.
This is probably one of those ones where you can insert the exact same joke you just used for Liam Neeson, where Robert De Niro could probably just say whatever the hell he wants, and everybody else has to adapt to it.
They're just happy he's in it. Yeah.
Right?
He's like, is this an R-rated one or a family one? That's all I need to know. Number 4.
Can I use the F-bomb?
You get one, Grandpa. Number 4 is Christopher Nolan's Tenet, dropping below the $1 million mark, taking in $885,000 this past weekend. Again, Nolan's Tenet was one of the first movies that kind of brought us back into the box office.
He saved cinema.
He sure tried. And here it is. It's still sticking around the top 5 because there's nothing else out, and it still has probably a majority of theaters that it's in right now. So, Tenet. Mm-hmm. I think we'll slowly see this movie start to sneak out of the box office here in the next couple weeks.
And then like 2 weeks later, it'll be available in like VOD or something like that because Warner Brothers is going to try to milk it for all that they can.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, do you think it would go? They wouldn't push it to HBO Max first, would they?
No, probably not.
I think they would still try the theaters at home thing, the $20 mark after.
Yep.
I think they would still try to do that.
I think they would go for a $24.99, rent to premium VOD kind of stuff before they would go to HBO Max or something like that, which HBO Max would be the first place they would do probably for a home release after that, but just since it's Warner Brothers.
It could also be a power move to put it on HBO Max when it's done with its theatrical run.
Maybe.
People to sign up and boost.
You got to get Nolan. You got to get Nolan to sign off on the little screen ticker, though.
Yeah, whatever, Nolan.
What's next?
Number 5, The Empty Man, which was not in empty theaters, bringing in a little over $500,000 at this past weekend's box office. Again, Halloween weekend, not much else to see in theaters. The Empty Man sneaks in the top 5 for one more week. I don't know if it'll stick around after this upcoming weekend. But yeah, that's the box office for this past weekend. Do you guys have any other final thoughts on, again, a low weekend at the box office?
Well, I mean, it's been pretty on par, I think, for the sake of, your number one movie's been around 3 million and whatnot. I mean, it's just your 4 and 5 might be a little bit of a lackluster, but other than that, I mean, it's been like this for the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm. All right, should we move on to the news?
What little news we might have this week?
Yeah, just a little news this week.
Well, You find any reason to find some horror news to be able to put into the news there. That's just your game, it looks like here.
Hey, and I dig this news.
Of course you dig this news. The news is that Patrick Wilson is slated to make his directorial debut with directing Insidious 5. As somebody who, I'm a fan of Patrick Wilson, have never seen a single Insidious film, even I can still get behind this just because I think number one, he knows the world. He's been a part of this world for as long as he has been. If you're going to have anybody who's going to be actor or director kind of thing, whatever, get somebody who knows the world. And I think he's fantastic enough the way he is. And I really do. I hope he pulls this off extremely well. And I hope he does well with this. And I am excited for this news, even for the fact that I have not seen anything with anything that is a James Wan created world outside of Saw.
So you have not seen the Conjuring movies either?
Or Annabelle, none of them. Nothing to do with anything outside of Saw, unfortunately.
So
maybe that'll be next October.
You're missing the actual good James Wan series, Conjuring and Insidious. Lou, what do you think of this news? Are you a fan of the Insidious movies at all? No?
Nope. Nope. Sorry.
She's like, scary movies. Nope, I'm checked out.
I'm out. I unabashedly love the Insidious series. I watched the first two about a week ago. Still hold up marvelously. I've seen them both probably half a dozen times now. The first Insidious still is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. It's one of the few movies that still scares me. And then I think the sequels are a little bit of diminishing returns, but I still think like James Wan only did the first two. Lee Winnell got to do three, and then fourth one Lee Winnell only wrote, and I think Adam Robitel directed the fourth one. So sure. But Lee Winnell wrote all four, which is awesome to have his creative mind in that series the entire time. And now he's gone on to he's going to be doing a lot bigger things after the success of Invisible Man earlier this year. So it's nice to see Patrick Wilson taking what he knows of working with Wan multiple times now and seeing what he can apply to this world, because he only appeared in the first two movies, and their story was really wrapped up in the second one. It's going to be really interesting to see where they go with technically the third film in the series, because 3 and 4 are prequels to 1 and 2. Am I confusing anyone yet? Probably.
Yes.
But so this is technically the third movie in the timeline, technically it is the fifth movie in the timeline, so at least they're getting that right. But again, it's going to take place like many years after the second movie. What's his name? Ty Simpkins he was in the Jurassic World, the first one. He played the kid in the first two movies, and it's going to be him growing up and how they're dealing with that, I guess. So I hope Rose Byrne returns. I think they're the dynamic duo of those first two movies, and I'm very excited to see this. I know Patrick Wilson has not directed anything, but I think him hanging out with James Wan for 5 movies now that they've done together, I think that's going to definitely rub off onto Patrick Wilson.
Just because you're making a joke about it beforehand, you trying to explain the timeline to Insidious is me trying to explain the timeline to the Fast and Furious.
It all makes sense. Come on. Both are the case where the third movie is a prequel to the first two movies.
See, now you're getting it.
There it is. All right. What's the unfortunate second piece of news that we have to discuss this week, Brian?
The sad news is, there we go, is that the infamous and most amazing Sean Connery has passed away at the age of 90. As that fact that 2020 hasn't been bad enough, we get to have this, but at least from what I'm understanding, it's just at this point right now, it's just due to old age, not because of COVID. So it sounds like he'd been sick the last little while here, and so that it is unfortunate, but it is Mr. James Bond himself.
Yeah, look at that young chap that we have on the screen there. Jeesh.
I know. I had to make sure I had to get a nice, good, wonderful image of Mr. Connery. Sorry, Sir Connery.
Sir Sean Connery.
Sir Sean Connery.
Yeah, when this news dropped on Halloween morning, I saw it, and I was like most everyone really devastated by it, because he's an icon of the industry. I mean, he, for many people, is James Bond. And I mean, if you have people do a James Bond impression, it's Connery's Bond. That's the one you're doing. You're doing shaken, not stirred. Like, that's the impression you're doing. And
Absolutely.
That I love Sean Connery. I do think he and Brosnan are my favorite two Bonds. But also him in other roles as well. Like him as Indiana Jones's dad is awesome. Like who else could play that? No one. You have to have someone that can match the stature of Harrison Ford. Why not get basically the British version of, like, if America gets Indiana Jones as our Americana hero, I think the equivalent to our friends on the other side of the sea in England is Bond. Like those two are yin and yang to each other, and having Connery as his dad is awesome. But
I also love the fact that Connery was playing Harrison Ford's dad because he wasn't old enough to be his dad.
Hey, he looked old enough to be his dad.
Oh, he looked it. He totally looked it, but he wasn't actually.
But I think my favorite Connery role is The Rock. I love him in The Rock. I think he's so good in that movie. He has one of my favorite lines of any movie ever, and I will not say it because we do drop it. We get one F-bomb per episode, and I will try not to use it on that.
Okay.
I will say that for the sake of towards the end of his career, I do think The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen is an underappreciated movie. I know not a lot of people enjoy that movie. It's not a great movie, but I enjoyed what they were trying to get out of it. And, it's not Bond, but it's still a good movie, I think.
I've never seen it.
You yourself, Mr. I like all my horror movies and stuff like that, would probably dislike it because of the use of all of the horror characters and all of the literature characters that are in it.
Probably.
Yeah.
Snob like that.
You are a snob like that.
A little bit. Lou, what is Sean Connery an actor that you have gravitated towards? Is he one of the icons of the silver screen that you've enjoyed watching?
Well, I think icon's the right word for him. I'm aware of his filmography a little bit here and there, but obviously the Sentinel thing for me is going to be, as a kid from the 80s, definitely Indiana Jones' dad. That's what I think of when I think of Sean Connery. And I thought the same thing about his age. I think he was with under 10 years difference there of their ages. So it's comical, but it worked and I loved it. And I'll miss his voice. He has such a good voice.
Right. He had that very iconic, like, Scottish accent about him that you absolutely gravitated towards. I think he's Scottish.
I just want him to read me books. I don't know.
Did Connery ever do any audiobooks? I wonder.
Ooh, I don't know. We should look into that.
Yeah. And then, of course, I think we have to talk about this.
What?
The impression on Celebrity Jeopardy adds to the iconic aura of Sean Connery. His feud with Alex Trebek, even though it's not Connery and not Trebek, is one of the greatest pop culture rivalries of all time. And that's not what your mother said last night. It's so good and it's so iconic, and it's I wonder if SNL will do an homage to it maybe this week. I don't know. I think it would be a lot of fun if they did, and it would definitely fit within the character of what they were always building with that Connery impression.
I am trying to pull something up here because I think we would need to. Maybe I don't know if I'll be able to get it, because I was going to say is I found the image of what you're talking about because, well, it is just that. Let's see if we can get.
You're pulling up the image of him on SNL.
Where is it? There we go. Yes.
Great radio here. There he is.
There we go. Great radio. Yes. And who is it again that does the impression of him?
Daryl
Daryl. There you go.
Yeah.
I was getting the Hammond. I was like, what was his first name? I forget.
And I believe he's the announcer on SNL now, I think. I think Daryl Hammond is. I would have to double check that. I haven't watched SNL live in a long time. But yeah, anyway, do you guys have any favorite lines from that at all, or favorite moments of his celebrity impression?
I can think of one, but I can't do the voice. Does that count? It's the one where he picks the category, the rapist, and it's therapist. That's
I'm sorry, that is the therapist.
I'll take 8 tits for 500.
Yeah.
Yeah, I those are totally iconic and fit in with the like I said, the aura of his legendary status in Hollywood so much. And yeah, I mean, again, I think we've said this a couple of times. He's an icon in the industry, and it's sad to see him go. But I mean, at 90, that's quite the illustrious career. And I believe League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was his last movie.
On screen, it looks like he did some voice stuff after that. But yeah, League was his last thing, and that was like,
15 years ago at least.
Yeah, like 2003, 2005.
Yeah, so legend. That is Sean Connery. But that is all we have for news. Little short news week, and but we'll move to coming soon for this weekend. We only have one new movie coming into theaters for this week, which is Let Him Go, which is the sequel to Zack Snyder's Man of Steel, if I'm not mistaken.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's not.
Just because Mom and Pa Kent are in it, that don't make it a prequel sequel.
And it's set in the Midwest, and it looks like they're in the same house and wearing the same clothes.
Oh, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that, it can't be a sequel because Pa Kent's dead.
Yeah, like I said, it's a prequel.
He got eaten by a tornado.
He did. But Let Him Go. It's a new, looks like a Midwestern thriller in a way. Comes to theaters November 6th. Again, stars Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, who did play Ma and Pa Kent in the Man of Steel movie. And is basically they're trying to rescue their grandson from an abusive family that has been mixed up with that they've been mixed up with. So yeah, Let Him Go. Did you guys have the chance to watch this trailer? Do you have any thoughts on it? Is this something you'd like to see in theaters right now?
I would tell you the only reason I even had an opportunity to see the trailer is because I happen to have ads while watching the movie we're going to talk about today. So I got to watch it as a commercial to watching Tombstone. So
killing two birds with one stone. I like it.
Hey, it worked. I was like, hey, I recognize these people. I bet you that's the movie we're going to talk about. Up until Derek put it in the coming soon, I had no idea this was even a thing. Like, I don't know when this was being made. I don't know how long it's been shelved for. Maybe they made this while, Warner Brothers had these two on set so they could kill two birds with one stone. I don't even know who even made the movie and whatnot. To be like, well, we've got these guys. They're playing Ma and Pa Kent. Let's put them into a thriller. I don't know. I think I need to sit down and rewatch the trailer again and whatnot, but there wasn't anything that made me go, I'm going to go to the theater to go see this. I probably would wait for like a Netflix movie or a cheap rent or something like that. Like, Diane Lane and Kevin Costner are by all means fantastic actors, and they deserve everything that they have coming to them and whatnot. But it's just there wasn't anything that made me go, I need to go see this. But maybe I'm not the right demographic for Costner. My mom probably would go see this if it wasn't everybody trying to be in quarantine.
Brian, we live in the Midwest. We're the only demographic for Costner anymore.
No, see, and that's where I think you're partially wrong, just because, we do live in the Midwest, so we know what to expect out of this, whereas you got all these, like, city folk from, the East and West Coast to be like, oh, that's what the Midwest looks like.
Well, they can't watch this in the theater anyway because their theaters are still closed. But yeah, it's either Costner these days, he's playing a Midwest dad, or he's in a sports movie. And I dig it. I like it. He feels like every Midwestern dad that we all know.
You have a special heartstring specifically for Costner just because of Field of Dreams.
I love Kevin Costner. Like, you refer to Tom Hanks as America's dad. Kevin Costner is like I don't know how to refer it to other than like he's my dad. Like, that's who I think of Kevin Costner as. Like, if Tom Hanks is America's dad, then Kevin Costner is the Midwest dad. But I have no interest in this movie. This looks really bland and generic. It seems like Kevin Costner and Diane Lane were like, yeah, we like working together. We have good chemistry. We should do another movie sometime. And then both of their agents came up with this movie, and they're like, all right, let's do it. Let's do this family drama. So I don't have any interest in it, but maybe we're wrong in being negative Nancy's. Lou, what do you think of this trailer?
Well, this is awkward. I think it looks really good. I think it looks amazing. I think it grabbed my attention right away. I accidentally saw the trailer earlier today when I was watching TV, and right away I'm like, oh, is that Kevin Costner? What's he doing? And I guess I'm like your mom because I am his demographic. It's so gross and weird, but ever since I was like 10, I loved Kevin Costner, which is sick because he would have been like 45. But that probably just says weird stuff about me, not him. But no, I really like Kevin Costner. I like Diane Lane. The story sounded really interesting. The fact that their kid is dead, and so this grandkid is like their last link to that kid. And the widow marries some jerk and they take the kid. And so I can feel like that emotion of like needing to have that kid in your life because it's the last link to your dead son. So I liked that, and I want to see it.
Brian, we were being negative Nancy's. Mm-hmm. Well, I will say this for the sake of Costner, is that he does have a little unique. There's something about Costner and the female demographic that seems to have a gravitation towards, I think. I honestly do, because I mean, even since like Dancing with the Wolves and everything like that, like that's his demographic. So, she, like you said, exactly. Since you're like, like you said, since you're 10, I think maybe that's why he does the kind of movies he does, Casey. So he does the sports movies so he can get that male demographic, but then he does his other one so he can get his female demographic.
He does. He has a great old man look. Like he looks good for his age, man. He's aged very, very well. Yeah. Right. So that is Let 'Em Go hits theaters November 6th. Next up, we have a new movie hitting VOD the same day, which is Possessor, which is the second feature film from writer-director Brandon Cronenberg. You might recognize that last name because he is the son of David Cronenberg, who appeared multiple times on our 1980s Killer Countdown list.
He showed up twice.
Multiple times. For The Fly, Videodrome is perhaps the movies he's best known for. This follows an assassin who's implanted into the brains of other people's bodies in order to kill her targets. So this movie has been getting some rave reviews. It does star Christopher Abbott, Jennifer Jason Leigh, and Sean Bean, who probably dies.
But isn't that what Sean Bean does in like everything?
I think that's his job. He's like, all right, which page do I die on?
How am I going to die this time? I can't say much of this here because up until we start putting it in the notes here today, I did not know this was even a movie. But I do like Sean Bean. I do love Jennifer Jason Leigh. I think she's a fantastic actress as well.
They've been advertising it at the West Mall since they've reopened.
The last time I was at the West Mall was go see Nightmare on Elm Street. So the beginning of October. So
it was there. The poster, at least. I don't think they are even playing it, but the poster's been up. Lou, I'm going to assume this is not something up your alley.
Well, okay. I watched the trailer a couple times, and it does look really interesting. I don't think I understand what it's about, but it looks like I would watch it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It looks like something that would come out of the Cronenberg family, though. Just the description, obviously, since I haven't seen the trailer, and knowing what his father is capable of, this sounds like something that's right in that, that wheelhouse of that family.
I have purposely not watched anything on this movie. I've only seen the poster because I've been hearing about this movie for probably over a year now. So I'm excited to watch this one finally. I mean, I think I need to watch some more Cronenbergs that I've not seen and maybe throw on Possessor right after as a big Cronenberg family gathering some night. But yeah, this one is one I've been looking forward to. I do hope West Mall does pick it up. It'd be fun to see it on the big screen too.
Maybe. I mean, they have done a few other things that were not supposed to be theatrical releases, but they pulled them anyway.
Mm-hmm. Next up, we have 4 movies returning to theaters. I think this is what is going to get some people excited about what we have coming up this week. First up, grab those coconuts, boys and girls, because we are going to watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I mean, at least I am. It is coming back to theaters November 6th. So this is in part of the 45th anniversary re-release of the Monty Python cult classic comedy, Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
If at all possible, is we would go see this in the theater as a group. Somebody's going to show up as the knight with somebody behind him with the coconuts. Like you would have to go walking, galloping. I would love just to watch the people of the theater, whether they are laughing at you or mocking you because you're the 17th person they've seen do this. But I want to see you be the one galloping in as you go and get your ticket for Monty Python.
Challenge accepted. Because I did this, I've been ever since I saw this was coming to theaters. I'm like, yep, I'm there. Monty Python and the Holy Grail is my jam. Top 3 favorite comedies ever. I mean, it fluctuates in my favorites of all time. I am a huge Python stan. I love the group, no matter what they do.
Says the guy that's only watched like one Terry Gilliam movie that's not Python.
I said Python stan. I didn't say Terry Gilliam stan. I know that's a big blind spot for me. But funny thing about this movie is the first time I watched it, one of my friends in high school always told me about, Monty Python and the Holy Grail is the funniest movie ever. So finally I found it one night. And I invited him over, and we watched it twice, back to back. I'm like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Like, I had to watch it back to back because we missed so much because we were laughing so hard at it. And then the funny thing, next year, me and a group of friends got together. We joined speech in high school, and we're like, well, let's not do speeches because that's boring. Let's reenact scenes from Monty Python and the Holy Grail. So we did, and we were pretty good, I think. But yeah, that's the group I'm going to watch this with. I think we've all been waiting for it since we fell in love with the movie in high school. So yeah, I'm stoked to watch Monty Python on the big screen.
I just shake my head at you.
Why?
I don't know. I can say that I was probably in my 30s the first time I ever watched this movie. So I also find the appreciation of the fact that you have a movie that you love so much that is almost twice as old as you are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 45th. Yeah, this movie's 19 years older than I. So yes, this is but it doesn't matter. The comedy in the movie holds up still to this day.
Oh, extremely
crazy. Yeah. Lou, are you a fan of the Python group? Is this a movie you enjoy?
Well, I'm a fan of the movie mostly because I was in theater in high school, and it's one of those movies that you just see if you're a theater kid. But I also think that the problem is you didn't see it in high school. So if you didn't see it in high school, you're just not going to like it. I think that's it. I think you have to see it in high school with your friends.
I like it.
Okay.
I didn't see it when I was in high school. I don't know. I honestly don't even know why or why not. But yeah, I think I was okay. Maybe not. Maybe shoot. No. Okay. Maybe say my mid-20s. Now that I think about when I actually saw it, but still, it's one of those movies. Like Casey says, though, it does hold up.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's also because it's a comedy. It's basically spoofing the period piece that it is. And it's before comedies really started to get stupid, like in the early 2000s, like post-Scary Movie.
Right.
When everything was trying to just like cram every kind of genre into one kind of movie. It's like, no. If you're going to do it, just do one thing and do it well. And if there's one thing that Python is definitely known for, is doing comedy and doing it well. And so many people that came out of that troupe that were just, excelled even past Python. So there's so many people that we wouldn't even have if it wasn't for Python. So this is definitely one that people should see if they've never seen it.
Yeah. I mean, I think in terms of, I want to do a Python month at some point and talk about all the Python movies and Holy Grail, Meaning of Life, Life of Brian, and now for something completely different. I think we have to do those at some point. I would absolutely love that. I think that's such a great group to look at. And I mean, in terms of comedy groups, I think it's them and the Three Stooges is the most two influential of all time. So that's some good company to be in if you're the Python boys.
to be in a group with Three Stooges?
With the Three Stooges, yeah.
That sounds a little rough, but that's just me.
Little what? What?
I love the Three Stooges too. Don't get me wrong, But that's two different kinds of comedy right there.
Well, they are, but they are two of the most influential comedy groups ever. Oh, you're breaking my heart. First Candyman last month, now The Exorcist, and now Three Stooges.
Hey, I did not give any crap about The Exorcist. I told you that.
You made up for it with this slander towards the Three Stooges. You're breaking my heart.
All right, next thing.
Next up, Brian hates this movie too, I'm sure.
I do not hate Toy Story.
Toy Story coming back to theaters starting November 6th. The first Pixar movie back on the big screen. Guys, what do you think of Toy Story? Seeing this on the big screen. I mean, if I watched it, I would love to watch this on the big screen. I don't know if I will, but this would be the first time watching it on the big screen. And what about you guys?
To be honest, I don't even remember if I even saw this on the big screen when it came out in '95. I really don't. I think it might have been when it first came to VHS or whatever the heck it was back then. Might have been the first time I've seen it. This would be one I do think would be what I think would be kind of fun if they would do it, which they're not going to because they already said that Soul's coming to Disney Plus in next month. Is that if you were to do like a double feature of Toy Story and Soul to see the kind of the original, the beginning of the Pixar movies and what they are now, because I mean, if you just look at them, just the amount of detail and the amount of work that they've gone as these movies have progressed over the last 25 years, I think that this is one of those ones that if your kids are old enough to be able to go see this in theater, take them to go see this in the theater.
Yeah, this is like Toy Story was a huge part of my childhood, so I would love to see this on the big screen. I've only seen the third movie was the only one I watched in theaters. I didn't even watch 2 or 4. I don't know what the hell I was doing, but the last 2 have had me crying so much in Toy Story 3 and 4. So I think if I watch the first one again in theaters, it might do the same.
No. I don't know if they start tugging on the heartstrings until you get into like the third one really hardcore. So you might be okay with the first one.
Oh my God, I bawled my eyes out at the last 2 though, so I think I could.
What part of Toy Story 3 made you cry though? Was it the very end?
Twice in that one.
I know, I'm interested because there's a part for me, but I just want to know if it's the same part.
When they're going in the incinerator.
Yes, that
because
part. Their little hands. Their little hands. Yeah.
Because when I watched that, I was 17 when that came out, so I was Andy's age, and I'm like, oh God, don't kill my toys. And then when he gives the toys away, I'm like, oh my God, don't give the toys away, keep them. Broke my heart.
But Andy was getting too old for his toys.
You're never too old for your toys.
I'm not going to argue, as I've got a whole bunch of toys sitting on my desk by themselves.
I was going to say, I know we both have a bunch of toys right next to us.
You mean like my Legos?
Or like my Rick Wild Thing Fawn? I don't have any Toy Story toys, though, which sucks. I used to have all of them as a kid. But yeah. Toy Story. Back in the big screen.
Back on the big screen. Here's an even older one that makes me even feel even older because I know I saw this in the theater.
Which is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Back on the big screen for its 30th anniversary, November 5th and 7th. So back on the big screen, 2 nights only to watch the Turtles in live action.
I would totally go watch this in the theaters again. And I will tell you, as a kid, seeing this in the theater, I do remember one of the biggest things that is when you watch the stuff on the TV and you're used to playing with the toys that they made these all out of and whatnot, is at the very beginning of the movie, listening to Raphael yell the word damn at the top of his lungs multiple times. I was like, I'm going to get in trouble for watching this movie because he's swearing. Because that's like, as a kid, you're like, you're not allowed to swear. You're not supposed to swear. And that's considered a bad word, sort of thing. And when else, he was like, I'm going to get in trouble. But that is like the one thing I always remembered from going to see that in the theater.
Yeah, I love this movie. I would love to watch it on the big screen. Never seen it on the big screen, but this is
Isn't the original one of the Corey Feldman ones?
Yes, it is. Yeah, this movie still, I watched it maybe 2-3 years ago, still holds up remarkably well. And yeah, this for me, it's easily still the best Ninja Turtles movie we've ever gotten, and it's going to be hard to compete with that. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to hopefully checking this out on the big screen. Lou, what about you? Are you a Turtles fan? Is that something you would run out to the theaters to watch at all?
I saw it a lot when I was a kid. Haven't seen it since, though. Yeah.
I think that's her way of saying, no, I'm not going to go to the theaters to go see this.
Totally not. Yeah.
I like to think my parents watched the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon before they had me, and that's why I have my name.
Your parents must be very young. I think my parents watched the Flintstones, so or maybe Rocky and Bullwinkle. Yeah.
He is a very young pup, so that is highly probable and possible that your parents would have been watching the cartoon.
Because when did the cartoon come out? 80s, mid 80s?
Oh, so when I was born? Yeah, okay. That's cool. Are your mom and I going to be friends? Or
I mean, you could. But I know for a fact my dad didn't grow up with a television, so he did not watch it. And my mom probably was not watching Ninja Turtles growing up.
Okay, he didn't have a TV reason? Or
not have religious reasons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
1987.
Which is funny. Here I am now hosting a movie podcast for having that. So what year? 87?
87.
So yeah, they would have been.
So when this became a cartoon, I was 9.
Okay, they would have been too old to be watching cartoons probably anyway. But anyway, let's move on. Next up, we have one more movie coming back to theaters for a Fathom event screening. This is the 45th anniversary of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Hits theaters November 8th and 9th. So seeing this Jack Nicholson classic on the big screen for the 45th anniversary.
Finally, a movie that was made before I was. As we're talking about all these old movies coming back to theaters. I will tell you, I have never seen this movie, period. In fact, actually, until everybody talking about Nurse Ratched for like Halloween and everything like that, I had no clue there was any connection whatsoever. Whatsoever. Not a clue.
She is an evil bitch in this movie. God damn.
So now that I know this is coming back, the Sarah Paulson stuff that they've got going, I'm like, I need to get caught up because otherwise I feel like really bad right now. Like I know absolutely nothing of this movie other than the fact that it's a Nicholson movie. That's it.
Go one of these nights, Brian. Go watch it on the biggest screen possible then, if this is going to be your first time. Yeah, this movie is incredible. I love this movie. Nurse Ratched is one of the best villains ever in my eyes. Like I said, she is an evil bitch in this movie. Like she is so just mean and ruthless. Like it's hard to compare her to any other character because of how terrible she is. And again, Jack Nicholson is incredible in this movie. A young Danny DeVito is also in this movie. Yeah, this movie's pretty awesome.
Can we really ever call Danny DeVito young looking?
He does not look very young in the movie.
He was probably 12 and still looked like he was 45.
I think he was early 20s, and he looked like he looks now on It's Always Sunny.
There might be a little bit of a stretch, Casey. Just a smidge.
He has more hair. That's about it. Also, I think Sunny does an homage to One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is
come on. If he's in it and you've got DeVito on set, that's the kind of thing those three would absolutely be like, we're going to figure out how we're going to throw this into Always Sunny.
I think,
and I know that, and never having watched an episode of it, even I know that.
But I think that would be the only DeVito movie reference they've ever done, because they have never touched on his stuff with like Schwarzenegger or Batman or what's another classic DeVito movie?
Give them time.
Twins.
Like they should totally do
They should totally do that.
Do an episode where Frank gets pregnant. That would be awesome.
Oh, Junior.
Yes. I think like I bet once you start getting towards the end of the run before FX says, okay, you know what? We're done. We've already done like 15 seasons of this. I think they're going to start be like, what stuff can we get the sign off on? Because obviously, like rights and stuff like that. Be like, they're just going to go throw the entire kitchen sink at that, like last season. I think for DeVito, and if they don't, it's a lost opportunity.
His like first season, they throw him into they throw the kitchen sink. Like he's naked the first season he shows up.
I'm talking about DeVito movies.
Oh, I don't care if they do or not. I think it's the show is already funnier than anything he's ever done before that. So, yeah. But he should get pregnant. I would watch him getting pregnant.
Well, I don't want to watch him getting pregnant. I'll watch him be pregnant. But
good answer.
They would probably show him getting pregnant too. I wouldn't put it past that show. But that is all we have for coming soon for this week. Go check out the article, which will be available the next day after this podcast comes out. So go check out everything else that is coming soon to theaters and streaming and anything else in between. Up now on backlot605.com.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but we're going to take a brief little break here, and then we'll come back on the second half of the show to talk about Tombstone.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hello, listeners. Are you craving even more movie content? Head on over to our horror theme show, Slashlat 605, which is hosted by Sam Lenz, Blake Ginnathan, and myself, Casey Calderman. That is where we break down our favorite films in the horror genre and everything else that is related to the genre that us horror nerds love so much. Podcast is available right now on Anchor.fm, Apple, Google, and YouTube. We will see you there.
All right, we are back here to discuss the 1993 Western Tombstone, starring Kurt Russell, Val Kilmer, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton, Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, Charlton Heston, Stephen Lang, Thomas Hayden Church, and many, many others, including one of my favorites, Billy Goddamn Zane.
There's a few names that popped up in the list, and as I'm watching the movie going, I did not know this person and this person and this person and this person were in this movie, and it just made the movie that much better.
Yeah, I remember the four main stars that are in this movie that you see right behind Brian, but anyone else outside of that, I was like, oh wait, you're in this movie. Wait, you're in this movie? Heston shows up like with 20 minutes left of the movie. I'm like, Charlton Heston's in this movie? What is going on? Yeah, Tombstone.
Because if you need a movie at that time and whatnot, you just try to put Heston in everything because he's Charlton Heston.
He is Charlton freaking Heston, man.
And I do like how when you get to the end of the movie, like that's how they even roll the credits. Like just for the fact that he's in there for that one little blurb and it's like, and with Charlton Heston.
Oh, if anyone deserves the and is it's Heston.
Right.
I also think he gets that in the Planet of the Apes movie, the Tim Burton one, unfortunately. Anyway, we're not talking about that terrible movie. Let's talk about a good movie instead, Tombstone. So this is set in the Wild Wild West, not the Will Smith version, but the real life version.
I got the wrong background. Dang it.
There's no Big Willie style song to go over the credits. That'd be cool if it did, but it does not. So it stars Kurt Russell as Wyatt Earp, who ventures to the township of Tombstone with his brothers Virgil and Morgan, Sam Elliott, Bill Paxton. There they meet up with Doc Holliday, played by the infamous Doc Holliday, played by the uber charismatic, everyone's favorite character in this movie, Val Kilmer. And then the group basically says in this movie, we're not going to get involved with law enforcement anymore. We're done with that. We're leaving our past behind. That is until this group of cowboys shows up and runs roughshod on the township of Tombstone. And that group is led by Powers Booth, Michael Biehn, and their characters Curly Bill and Johnny Ringo.
I love Powers Booth.
Oh, he's so good in this movie.
If there's one thing I can definitely say about this movie, and it definitely shows its age, depending on which even person we're talking about here, is that you're just looking at like how young they look and how, in their prime they were. And I'm like, because it did take me like that split second, like I know that I'm like, oh my God, that is Powers Booth. Wow, he looks very young for his age.
Everyone looks really young except Sam Elliott, who has stayed 60 years old for 60 years. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Sam Elliott has looked the same since like 1970, whatever, when he did Mask with Cher.
Yes.
Through now, like the only thing that has changed is the size of his mustache, like and his hair, whether it be short or long. Outside of that, like Sam Elliott does not age. Like he made a deal with whatever devil he spoke to and whatnot, and he will outlive us all. The only person who will outlive us longer than him will probably be Keith Richards.
I like to think Sam Elliott was born with a mustache, just came out with the graying mustache already.
He probably was.
So Tombstone, this movie came out in 1993, directed by George P. Cosmatos, written by Kevin Jarre, who was the original director of the movie, left the project. Cosmatos stepped in, and as we will talk about throughout this episode, may or may not have actually directed this movie.
Got to put somebody's name on it, right?
We have to. But Tombstone, Lou, do you remember the first time you watched Tombstone? And I'm just noticing you actually have the Blu-ray behind you. You've more prepared than both Brian and myself, who were struggling to find the damn movie.
Well, I don't know. He has a whole background. He looks pretty prepared too. But yeah,
that's just green screen.
Oh, so you don't just have a life-size poster? That's cool. Yeah.
No, but I tell you what, that would be amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, yeah, I actually remember really crystal clear the first time I saw Tombstone because it was yesterday. And it was good. No, I do remember seeing, or pop culture references and such, but I had never fully seen this movie.
Brian,
if it makes you feel better, based on when we were recording this movie's been in my viewing capability for the 5 hours, 6 hours now. So I'm right there with you.
Excellent.
How was the person who was born after this movie was made the only one that has seen this movie? I watched this. I remember watching this movie. It was probably on VHS when I watched it, because my dad was super into. I think Val Kilmer was kind of a big name in our house with this and Top Gun, and yeah, this is one we had. One of the few VHS movies we actually had in our house, and I do remember watching Tombstone growing up, and I was.
Was your dad into westerns though?
And not really, but into like 90s westerns, he was like this. And I know we had Unforgiven too. So those were definitely big ones that we had. But it was more of who was in this movie. It was Kurt Russell and Val Kilmer were in the movie together. That was a big part of it.
I will tell you, just for the sake of my own like movie viewings and as growing up and whatnot, westerns are a really big blind spot for me. Like, just that. And I've gotten maybe more appreciation over the last, maybe even 10 years and whatnot. But even still, like if you were to say, anything like, John Wayne, stuff like that, any of these other, like you said, like Unforgiven, all those, whatever, I haven't seen a single one of them. I may have seen like bits and pieces. What's the one? Oh my God! All of a sudden the name of it is escaping me. The name, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Sharon Stone.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Sharon Stone?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know that one.
Yeah. Well, you keep going. I'll pull it up.
Okay. Anyway, Tombstone. Yeah, this is. So I had seen this growing up, but I had not watched this probably in. At least 16, 17 years, I haven't seen this movie. So it's been a while. The only thing I really remember are the four guys right behind Brian. I vividly remembered the line, "I'm your huckleberry," is something I still quote to this day. I love that line so much. But yeah, like Brian, I'm not a big Western guy. I've seen a few here and there, but I'm not proficient in the Western genre. It's just something I've never gravitated towards. But again, the ones I have seen, I'm like, yeah, I dig those movies.
All right.
But
The Quick and the Dead.
The Quick and the Dead. I've not seen it.
Quick and the Dead. Sharon Stone, Gene Hackman. It's 95. So if that tells you how old Leonardo DiCaprio was, he plays the kid in the movie. That's literally what he's titled as.
Is this before or after Gilbert Grape?
Gilbert Grape, I think, is actually after this. It has Tobin Bell. It has Tobin Bell in it. Russell Crowe, Keith David. So, like, there's people in here that are like right up your alley, even.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I do got to share this quick for people watching. Look at this poster for this movie.
Oh yeah.
That is an incredible poster.
It looks very similar to my Red Dead Redemption 2 poster that's over here.
I wonder if this is fan art based off that. It very well could be.
Now, are you the type of person who plays Red Dead because you like the history of it, or is the fact that it's just a good game?
Well, I played Call of Juarez, and I really enjoyed all the Call of Juarez except for the one that was like car stealing. I didn't understand why they did that. It was like Grand Theft Auto, but a Western. It was confusing. So after I got over that nonsense, I was watching somebody play Red Dead Redemption, and they never asked me if I wanted to play. And so the second they went to bed, I created my own profile and started playing, and I just really loved it. And so when the second one came out, I became mildly obsessed. I couldn't concentrate at work, and I wasn't getting anything done. It was like, oh man, I got to get home and see if I can find a perfect deer pelt. I got got to upgrade my camp, have a lot going on. So the second I finished that game, it was actually kind of a relief to live my life again. Yeah. So.
Boy, it sounds like I'm glad I bought the game and I've only played like 10 minutes of it. I'm like, well, maybe it was good. I didn't go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, I was real far down. Yeah.
Sorry to get you off topic there, Casey. I know how much you don't play video games as much as I do.
I do not play video games, but yeah, movies. I don't know how to transition out of it. Tombstone. So yeah, this was your guys' first time watching the movie. What was your guys' first impressions watching Tombstone? Had you known the story of it? Had you known the backstory, the historical aspect of this movie?
I didn't know a lot of the history behind it, whatnot. I mean, it's not like I didn't know that, Doc and Wyatt Earp were real people and whatnot, but to the extent of the background, the family aspect of it, any of that, I didn't know any of that going into this movie.
Lou, what about you?
I sucked at history in school, so that helps.
Well, the gunfight at the OK Corral is such a really interesting historical moment for me, mostly because it is such a short fight. It was like 30 seconds and about 30 bullets in 30 seconds, which sounds like a lot. And it was just kind of like this big thing, even though the body count is really low for only 3 people died, which, I mean, I feel bad about that, but only 3 people isn't like a whole lot.
Do you have to feel bad about who died? I don't know.
I mean, it was like 139 years ago. We're probably fine. But I just felt like I knew the story about Wyatt Earp. I know a little bit about Doc Holliday. And so I like that time period, and I like Westerns, and I like all of that. So I was excited for Tombstone and to see how they handled it historically, and then how they made it interesting.
And from what I understand, because I only know the brief surface stuff of all the characters in this movie. Of course, I grew up loving the Wild West stories, but more towards Deadwood, because when I went there as a kid, I was like, oh yeah, this is awesome. Now I need to know more, and I got a book and everything about it. But that never touched on these guys too much because this was further west.
But there is overlap. They were in Deadwood for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Just not a lot of interesting things happen like they did down in Tombstone. Yeah.
And they do mention Wild Bill in this movie too. So that's probably the closest connection we get to Deadwood here for this movie.
We have 2 historical figures. Everybody else headed west.
That is true. And all our historical stuff is out west in our state anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I knew the surface level stuff, but from what I understand, it's pretty historically accurate to what's going on in this movie. And I think as far as the movie goes, I do like that because the 4 guys we're following the 3 Earp brothers and Doc Holliday, they're not necessarily good guys. They're very they're our protagonists, but that doesn't mean that they're go get them good guys at all. This movie does ride the fine line of we should still root for them because they're our main characters we're following, but it's not like these guys are, they have nothing, no flaws to them, nothing like that. No, these are fully fleshed out characters, all 4 of them. And then you hop to the villain side again. they're not all bad guys either.
Mm-mm.
Like they're fully fleshed out too. So again, I think that definitely into the real life story of the OK Corral thing. It's like, well, who was the good guys? Who was the bad guys in that situation?
We're just a bunch of anti-heroes.
And that's all this movie is. And I dug that about this movie. Like, no, like you like certain people, but again, I like some of the villains too in this movie.
Yeah, and I dig a good anti-hero. And I also think the Earp holiday situation, that's the most lawful people in a lawless wasteland. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that they're good people. It just means they're at least kind of trying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I do like I like how this movie does set up that again, I think they, from what I understand historically, they're missing a brother or two or three.
They are, yeah, two. Yeah, there's two other brothers that were living there.
Well, they just couldn't find any good named actors they want to throw into the mix here.
Maybe
they used them all on all the other roles in this movie. Everybody's exactly. A named actor. But again, I like that they narrow it down to it's White is the middle brother. He's kind of the leader of the group, but then you get his older brother and the younger brother that fit those dynamics very well too. And I like Bill Paxton especially as the bright-eyed, has a great outlook on the entire world. But again, he's definitely looking up towards his brothers in both aspects of.
Yeah, he definitely pulls off that. He sees things a little bit brighter because he hasn't lived through the bad stuff quite yet until he kind of gets to that point within the film. Mm-hmm. When he kind of gets his eyes opened up, and he definitely plays that younger brother very, very well. But then again, it is Bill Paxton. Then what did he do that was bad?
That is true. Any movie Bill Paxton is in, the movie might be bad, but Bill Paxton is not.
No. And, to be honest, I mean, that's one thing I do like about these four guys specifically is that you put them in anything. And even if the movie is not that great of a movie, it's not because of any one of these four guys.
Usually, yeah, that is true.
Where's your omission there? What, Val Kilmer? Oop, over there.
There might be a few Val Kilmers, but again, it's Val Kilmer on the big screen. You're like, yeah, I can give a pass to it.
Watch Jay and Silent Bob reboot.
He's in the movie. That's fine. But yeah, so let's talk about Val Kilmer because I don't want to beat around the bush. This is Kurt Russell month, but god damn it, this is Val Kilmer's movie, man.
This is totally Val Kilmer's movie.
I'm surprised that he was not arrested for theft because he stole this movie. It's amazing.
That is so true.
Yes.
Oh my god, he is ridiculously good in this movie. It's
he straight up is Doc Holliday. There is no Kilmer playing Doc Holliday. He's full on he's gone full on Johnny Depp with this role, I think.
But in a good way.
Yes, in a good way.
Yeah, he is full-fledged head first into this role. He is ridiculous, and it surprised me looking at it now is that he was not nominated for any awards. He was not nominated for an MTV award. I think that's the only nomination this movie got. Period. Was for an MTV award. He didn't even win, which is nuts. But again, Kilmer, this is an Academy Award at least he should have been nominated if not won. And I think Brian will probably be pulling up the Academy Awards from that year, but
I'm trying to pull up just Tombstone in general. But yes, I will. I'll do that too. You've got me curious.
I am curious too because God, he's so good in this movie, and he steals every scene he's in. He has the best lines of the movie.
He does. Almost every line that he has is totally quotable. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of them I'm totally going to steal. Like that one where he's been up for 36 hours and they're trying to get him to stop drinking. And he says, "Nonsense, I've not begun to defile myself." And I'm using that the next time somebody's like, you don't need that third glass of wine. I'm like, nope, I have not yet begun to defile myself.
To say it in the Southern accent.
Yeah, you have to, I think. Yeah. And all of his mannerisms are fantastic. Like watching his hands and just his movements while he's talking is just as interesting as watching his tuberculosis-ridden face, just pouring out sweat and all pale.
He's so sweaty in this
He's
movie.
so sweaty. But, I mean, that feels historically accurate. They didn't have air conditioning. It was hot. And they're wearing suits.
All the time.
All the time.
And I do... And the background picture that I've got right here is a prime example of like when they're walking down the way and whatnot, and he's over there just profusely sweating to the point where his there we go, the top of his shirt is just drenched, and it's like that throughout like the whole movie.
See it in your picture, even like
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yes,
yeah,
like you can see, like
And it totally fits it. Like, look at the other three guys and like the poster for this movie. Like, they're all prompt and like look like perfect badasses. And then you have him just drenched in sweat, ready, like, I'm going to kick some ass.
So interestingly enough, though, that is actually historically accurate that the brothers were all wearing black and Doc Holliday was wearing gray. So
good to know.
They did the research, definitely.
Well,
did you pull those up?
Well, the first thing I had to do is find out I wanted to see when exactly Tombstone came out. So it was December of 93. So I assume that means it would have been for the 94, the 66, which had been in 94, that March. For the sake of Best Picture, it was going up against the movie. It was going up against Schindler's List.
Ooh.
You know, that was the year of Schindler's List. That was the year that Spielberg got the director for Schindler's List. That's also the same year as Philadelphia and The Piano, The Fugitive. So, like, for the sake of
supporting actor that year,
supporting actor is Tommy Lee Jones for The Fugitive, and that would have been the year for Leonardo's first nomination for Gilbert Grape.
Oh man!
Ralph Fiennes for Schindler's List, John Malkovich for In the Line of Fire, and Pete Postlethwaite for In the Name of the Father. So, I mean, for the sake of supporting actor, that was a very that's some strong competition right there.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't even look at any of those names and go, really? Why were they in there?
No, I agree, but I think he should have snuck in there, though. I think he's better than Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive. I mean, and I do like him in that movie, but even with that list, I still think Leo's first Oscar should have been right there.
Oh, for sure.
In 1994, I love he is so good in that movie, but yeah.
Anybody who hasn't seen that and seen his performance in that is wrong, and they need to fix it right away. But not off topic.
It's his best performance ever.
I mean, it was convincing. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Tombstone, not Gilbert Grape. We'll do Gilbert Grape at some point.
Do you want to put yourself through another Johnny Depp movie?
That one, yes.
He's not very Deppy in that one. It's okay.
That's true. That's before he goes full on Johnny Depp. That's before he goes full on Nick Cage.
Yeah.
That was before he ever teamed up with Burt.
Oh, so maybe that's the problem. Yeah.
Right?
No.
What year was Edward Scissorhands? I know we're way off topic now.
Edward
was early now. That he might have done Edward before.
Yeah, I was gonna say because that is like
Edward was like 91, I think.
90.
90? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 90. So yeah, he'd already met his
match made in heaven.
Yes.
But yeah, so I don't even know where we were. Do you guys have anything you want to bring up for Tombstone? We were talking, I think, Val Kilmer. But
yes, we were talking about Val Kilmer and how the fact they didn't get nominated for an Academy Award for that performance, because that is by all means a fantastic performance amongst many fantastic performances.
That was a good year. I'm not gonna lie. I think he is my favorite character of this movie. I think he has obviously the best lines of the movie. Mm-hmm. He also has my favorite scene. It's when they're in the saloon and they're having this standoff between him and Johnny Ringo, Michael Biehn.
Yes.
And Michael Bihn's doing all these tricks with the gun, showing how fast he is with the gun. And here Val Kilmer does it with this little tin cup that he has. And it's so amazing. It's a perfect standoff between the two.
Didn't you find it a little Indiana Jones-esque, like the whole whip scene, or was it a knife or a whip, and then he just shoots the guy? It reminded me of that.
Yeah, when the guy has the knife and he just whips out the gun and shoots him. Yeah.
Yeah.
It did,
Hey,
man.
funny enough, there was another sick guy in that scene too, and then that's why they filmed that scene that way. Harrison Ford did not feel well that day, so they changed. He was supposed to have a full-on fight scene that day, and he was under the weather, so they just improv, and that's what we got.
So much better.
So much better.
So much, yeah.
Both super sweaty in those scenes too.
So sweaty, yeah.
Very sweaty movies, and we don't get enough sweaty movies anymore.
No, I think we're good.
We need more. I mean, it adds to it. I was about to say I like to see sweaty men on the big screen, but that would have sounded really bad.
Okay.
We're keeping this PG-13.
Not anymore.
Well, since you do bring up sweaty men, I have one really weird thing to bring up about this movie. So I watched it twice. The first time I watched it, I had kind of two negatives that stood out to me. One is I feel like it's about 20 minutes too long. I feel like they could have rearranged it a little bit, made it a little bit shorter. But the second one is the love story in this movie is bizarre and not necessary. But I mean the Josephine and Wyatt love story. But there's like a sub love story with Billy Zane's character and Jason Priestley. That's
yeah.
No, hear me out.
No, you are not wrong. You are not wrong at all. And I will say, not to get off topic real quick here, though, Jason Priestley seemed really kind of like the one person in this movie that seemed kind of out of place in terms of the actor playing the person.
Mm-hmm.
No, he seemed a little modern.
There's no reason for him to be there, but I actually thought he did a pretty good job for being Jason Priestley. And he wasn't Brandon Wall. Yeah.
Yeah, you were not the only one that has picked that. Did you pick that up, Brian?
A little bit. He definitely had that he had that little doughy, star-eyed kind of I have this infatuation with this person. Absolutely.
Which, who doesn't love Billy Zane? I mean,
Billy Zane with hair. Billy Zane with hair.
I mean, that's not his hair. That can't be his hair. Like that has to be a pure piece.
No, I don't know. I mean, look at Billy Zane in '97 Titanic. He still had hair back then.
That is not his hair. That cannot. No way. That's. I swear. No way. No.
95 was Demon Knight, and he does not have hair in that. I refuse to think Billy Zane has ever had hair.
Yeah.
So on the first Slashlight episode that we just did, I talked about Demon Knight and Billy Zane, and I coined the term to myself that he goes totally in Zane in that movie.
Oh, totally.
Oh my God.
A very zany movie.
Yeah.
I will legit pretty much watch anything with Billy Zane, and just because I think he by all means is not one of those actors that I think will ever come home with an Academy Award, but he's so much fun to watch. Like he gets full on in with his character. Even if we're talking Zoolander versus like the Phantom and whatnot, like he was like Billy Zane for the role he played in Tombstone was the perfect person to play that role.
Absolutely. It wouldn't have been anything to remember without Billy Zane. And Billy Zane is, I mean, I think he's like 54 or so. And I think, I don't know, he's amazing. He really grabs your attention in this movie for, again, a role that really isn't very interesting. But
it's the fact that it's Billy Zane.
It is, yeah. And he just grabs your attention, and then the subplot love story, of course.
When he popped out of the stagecoach, I'm like, oh shit, Billy Zane's in this? This goes up a star rating automatically.
I did that like 20 years after starting to rewatching and knowing who Billy Zane was, and started rewatching Back to the Future and going, there's Billy Zane too. So
yeah. I mean, I loved him in Titanic. I mean, I know we're not supposed to, but he was kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, he's Billy Zane, and he pulls off playing the character of I hate that character, but I can't not hate Billy Zane.
Oh yeah, no, I liked the character. I would take him over Leo's character any day. Yeah.
She chose the wrong person.
Yeah, just yell at me and give me cool jewelry. Yeah, I'm into
it. I would have done that too.
But you know what the difference is, though? Going with Billy Zane versus going with Leo?
What?
You're less likely to freeze in the Atlantic Ocean on a piece of wood, because you would probably have made it onto the boat.
Oh, for sure. No, I'm surviving either way. Yeah. Yeah.
Again, we talked about movie stars that make their movies better. Billy Zane is one of them.
Totally.
Billy Zane, yes.
Yes. All right. So yeah, I tend to agree with the love story part. I don't think it's the strongest element of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I also don't think it's given enough screen time for it to fully develop either. They pretty much have the few interactions, and they're flirtatious, but it's not like, oh man, I need to see these two get together in the end.
No.
It's like, I don't care what happens to you two.
And it's super awkward too, because we're not given a ton of information about him and his, wife. So there's that. And all we know about that is that we're supposed to think she's some awful addict. And so then it's totally fine that he's going to commit adultery with this actress that he just met. And all of their interactions are super weird. Like just these like stolen glances across the saloon, and even after the gunfight at the OK Corral, and they're just staring at each other in the middle of the street. It's like, what's happening here? Why is this romantic? I don't feel romantic. Why is this romantic?
Where's your wife?
Yeah, well, no, she's right there, because then she pops up, and that does make it awkward. What about that? What about that weird horse ride that they take together?
Oh, I think it's probably the closest thing we get to a character development between the two.
Right.
But again, it's like we needed something in the first act of this movie to set up that his wife is just make up something that she's a bad person.
Right.
She's just in it for the money or something. Like, you have to have something in there. Otherwise, it's just like, well, maybe she's a drug addict. I don't know.
My favorite is he comes back.
It's all medics.
Yeah.
Or kill her off. Just kill her off right away then.
He comes back from that weird horse ride with Josephine, and his wife is in bed, like drenched in sweat, like having withdrawals. And then he like sits down and talks to her about their future. It's so weird.
Yeah. I don't care about the love story in this. No. And again, I think it wasn't the thing they were trying to focus on. And I think in a better if there is a better version of Tombstone out there, it would be giving more focus to that. And I think it's more of, you have to give a backstory to his actual wife at that point to make us care about the love story the journey that he's going on throughout this movie. And I think
show us the broken marriage as opposed to just having us try to assume that she's just, or they're already past that.
Take the wife out of the movie, like say she just died. Like, yeah, I don't know. There was many ways around that.
Well, at this point right now, from what I'm learning today, is the fact that there's brothers that don't even exist in this movie. They could have just not had the wife exist.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that's true. Yeah.
I understand his real wife was a prostitute too, and they didn't bring that up. That probably could have gone somewhere, but it was not brought up.
Yeah, they kind of reference it when they're getting off the train. And I think it was Virgil that asked Wyatt like how they met, and he says something about the same way you met yours or something like that. Yeah, and we're supposed to get from that they were all prostitutes.
Wild West.
I guess in the Wild West, that's the only way you meet women, I guess.
I mean, I guess that's kind of what Tinder is. I don't know. That's what I hear. I'm not sure.
Tinder is like the Wild West.
Right.
Yeah, but so who have we not touched? So let's touch on the villains for a little bit here, because I think Powers Booth and Michael Biehn are tremendous in this movie, alongside all the other smaller like villains in this movie. Like Stephen Lang and Thomas Hayden Church are really great in this too.
Thomas Hayden Church looks so baby-like compared to what you're used to seeing like nowadays.
Coming straight from George of the Jungle and doing this, man. Had to have been right around the same time, right?
All I know is I remember Thomas Hayden Church. The first of my interaction with him was the TV show Wings, and it's all been downhill since then. Thomas
Hayden Church. He was. I saw him. What was he in recently that I saw him in? I don't know. I'll have to look it up here in a minute.
Well, I've got his filmography right now.
But
he's in Hellboy. He's in Peanut Butter Falcon. That's what you remember him from.
No, I have not watched that yet.
Then you're wrong. Go fix that.
I am not wrong. Not wrong. What the heck was he in? I'll have to look it up here. Oh, Easy A was the one I was thinking of. I'm like, yeah.
Oh my God, that movie's 10 years old already.
Yeah. But yeah, I think all the villain characters are really fleshed out too, because again, we alluded to Billy Zane being a villain in multiple movies beforehand, but it's like, yeah, I still like Billy Zane. But Powers Booth in this movie is like, yeah, he's a villain, but I'm like, I kind of like you. I like watching you on the screen. You're charismatic. You have a lot of charm to you. I can see why someone would want to be a part of your gang.
That is totally like full on like Powers Booth. I mean, anything that he's in and whatnot, he always has that gravity amongst him, so that you always still want to, whether he's a good guy or a bad guy, which he's usually a bad guy, you still want to watch anything that while he's on screen.
Yeah. I didn't know Powers Booth passed away a few years ago.
Way to pay attention, man.
Yeah,
not too long after Sin City, if I remember correctly.
But yeah, I think that's the biggest testament I give to this movie is that every character, no matter how big or small the role is, besides Kurt Russell's wife in this movie, is fleshed out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I think that goes into, first and foremost, they did their research while working on this movie. It's definitely very historically accurate, and they definitely portray everything looks very historically accurate to all the costumes and weapons and the design of the town, the township. It all looks like it's the Wild West, and no one sticks out really like a sore thumb during this time either. And it's very easy to, especially if you look at it, because you recognize all these faces in this movie, but again, none of them feel like they're Kurt Russell or Sam Elliott or Val Kilmer. They pretty much feel like the characters that they're playing.
Hey, it took me half the movie to figure out which one Stephen Lang was.
Same here. I did not know it was Lang until I looked it up after. I'm like, oh, it is Stephen Lang. Wow.
And it's that beard and the much younger looking face, but yes.
I did read that all the facial hair was real. I think that's pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm. Sam Elliott, obviously, because
he's had that since birth.
I think razors, like his mustache is kryptonite to razors. Anytime they go near it, it will not work. Again, Kurt Russell can always grow great facial hair. This is definitely one of them.
That's why we have Kurt Russell month, because he plays a great Santa Claus.
Yes. And again, he has a little bit of the White Earp mustache and that Santa Claus beard too.
This might be because we don't get very many mustaches out of Bill Paxton, though, right? Like, this is one of the few. Like, when I think Bill Paxton, I don't think mustache very often, and he pulls it off very well.
I think of mustache because of True Lies.
I was going to say, I think he has one in True Lies.
Yeah.
Oh,
it is the same mustache for sure.
It is.
True Lies is one of those ones that, because it's a Cameron movie that you can't seem to get a hold of nowadays, I have not seen that thing probably in 15-ish, 20 years.
It's still pretty good. Yeah.
I watched it for the Arnie Sly show in terrible quality on DVD.
Oh, yeah. I just watched it a couple months ago. It's pretty great still. There's some really good lines in that movie.
Yeah, and Paxton.
Okay,
again,
so outside of True Lies and this, where's Bill Paxton get a mustache? I still stand by my previous statement.
Yeah,
he has had it before. Do you guys have any other thoughts on Tombstone? There's only one other thing I want to touch on.
Oh,
I like Michael Rooker in this, and how he flips sides. He basically says, you know what we were doing, there's one way to look at it, but once he started going after the women and whatnot, he's like, all right, that's going a little bit too far. Mm-hmm. So I did like the fact that you also show the defection of some of the quote unquote bad guys to say, you know what, okay, we get it, we're joining your side because, well, frankly, we have probably a better success rate of living, probably.
Right.
And I'll watch anything with Michael Rooker.
What about Billy Bob Thornton in this? I thought he was kind of amazing.
I didn't, like I said, I was telling to Casey here just before we started recording and whatnot. Number one, Billy Bob, I had no idea was even in this. This is pre-Sling Blade, so right. Sling Blade for me, I think is the one that people say is what broke Billy Bob out. Like, this is one of those. It's a fantastic performance by Billy Bob in a time when people probably had no idea who he even was. And I think he did, for what little bit he's in the movie, Billy Bob crushed his role. everything from being the arrogant asshole he was and throwing everything around to the point where he's face to face with Kurt Russell and just literally looks like he's probably pissing himself in the process.
Yeah, and then Kurt Russell has that insane line about the skin wagon. What's that? What are we talking about? What's going on? Smoking a skin wagon? It's like, what are you talking about? I don't think that's slang. I think he's just making stuff up.
All I know is that is a term that I'm not gonna Google.
No.
I do love when he shows up, and this is where they meet Doc Holliday, and he's kind of just standing there.
Yeah, and then Doc references, "Oh, Johnny, are you still there? You can go." It's just like, oh my gosh. Yeah, and leave the gun. Yeah, that's great.
Oh yeah, just leave that.
Yeah.
And I think his character really helps build up the mythical aspect of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, because where he finally realizes who both are, he's like, "Oh shit, I'm messing with the wrong guys, aren't I?"
Yeah,
absolutely. I think one of the missed opportunities in the movie is the fact that in real life, Doc Holliday and Wyatt Earp were arrested, and there was a hearing after the OK Corral, and it ended up not going to trial. But that would have been really cool to include in the movie, like before they do the whole vigilante justice thing, and they would have had like a whole like you can't handle the truth kind of moment with Doc and Wyatt, and I think that would have been a cool little vein to go down.
Have we ever even seen like obviously since my Western window is very small, like the idea of, you know, like you said, like trial and being arrested and stuff like that, like ever really portrayed in a Western? Like it's like that's like the thing that nobody I never seem to hear that it's talked about. It's like you're always getting in from that point of view where like, oh, they somehow hit that like golden part of it's okay that I did this and there'll be no repercussions.
Or you get hung.
Or you get hung, yeah.
So, I mean, there's just not a lot of leeway between the two.
And the thousands of Western movies out there, it has to have been done. I mean, there's close to 100 involving the characters in this movie.
Absolutely.
So I think it has to have been done at some point, probably with these characters.
But, you know, what I always see and stuff like that is, like, you get to the point where they're arrested, and then it's like, okay, you can go now.
Right.
You spent your night in jail. You may have shot that guy, but you just spend the night in jail. You're gonna sleep it off, and then you're gonna go about your way the next day. Like that's how I picture Westerns, and that's how I don't think I see that whole like, you know, there were lawyers back then.
Right.
Kind of the Wild West. It's like, oh, you shot a guy? Well, you're gonna spend a night in jail, and we'll let you go tomorrow.
And you should feel bad about it. Yeah. Don't do it again. Thank you.
Don't do it again.
Yeah. What do you think about Kurt Russell's acting in this movie? I thought it was a little uneven. Is that bad?
You mean like when he starts going off and looks like he's going to cry when he's being rained on by the rain machine?
Yep. The literal blood on his hands and yeah.
I will tell. This is not even to take away from the performance or whatever the case is, but this is just something I noticed. It was just slightly bothering me about that particular scene. Is you can tell like. They did it with a rain machine because if you looked far enough past where he was at, then it was just dry land.
Yeah.
And you got two intersections or two different roads and one. I'm like, can we try and I don't know. That slightly took me out of it. But yeah, I do think that like that particular scene seemed like that was like I'm gonna go all in and I'm just going to crank it to 11. That was how I felt about that scene.
Yeah.
See, the scene that I was like, oh, Kurt, you could have probably done another take, was when he has the confrontation with Curly Bill in that little scream.
And he's screaming no. Yeah.
And there's a slow motion no. I'm like, cut, let's do that again. Kurt, this time with a little more emotion.
Or without speaking. Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
And apparently another thing that actually did happen where he ran into a creek and was not shot miraculously and killed Curly Bill.
Yeah, and he wasn't hurt at the OK Corral either. You know, his brothers and Doc Holliday were all hurt in some way, shape, or form, but he wasn't. So he might be magical.
Real life badass.
Right.
But that point leads me into like the final thing unless you guys have anything else, I have a final point about Kurt Russell.
Well, I have a point about Kurt Russell, which is I don't know why you guys aren't doing the movie Overboard, because that is the best Kurt Russell movie. So
I've actually never seen
I like her style. I do. And yeah, okay, yes. I have to agree with Lou here. Before any of the other ones I've told you to watch and fix it, go watch Overboard.
Watch it a couple times. It's good.
I'm planning to watch some of the other Russells I have not watched before during this month too. So Overboard will probably be in there.
And you watch it before you watch Christmas Chronicle 2.
Yes.
Because that is a great Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, maybe a good double feature there. That's a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the final point I had, and this leads into Kurt Russell's acting, is he is the star of the movie, but he is also technically the director of this movie. And that only recently came to light within the last 3 to 5 years. I think this finally came out. But yeah, so the original director, which was Kevin Jarre, left the project. George P. Cosmatos was brought in to take over directing for this movie. But basically that came about because of a little movie called Tango and Cash, which is where Russell and Sylvester Stallone teamed up.
Oh.
Stallone previously worked on Rambo First Blood Part 2 and Cobra with Cosmatos, but it is notorious that Stallone basically directed Cosmatos how to direct the movie, which I don't understand because Stallone has directed many times. Why didn't he just do it himself? But I think it's more to direct everybody else around them. And that's basically what happened in this movie is Russell stepped in, Cosmatos was basically there to say action, and Russell directed everybody else on the screen. So, and that has come out, and Kilmer has backed him up on it. Sam Elliott has too, and that is why apparently this is why Val Kilmer has some of the best scenes and lines in this movie. Is that Kurt Russell is like, I'm got to direct this movie. I basically have to make sure production is going smoothly. You're taking the good scenes because I'm not going to have time to do some of the scenes that we need for this movie. And so that is one of the reasons, I guess, why Val Kilmer is so goddamn good in this movie.
So good.
And I think
because you have an actor directing another actor, and I do think that when you have those ones that know both sides of the camera lens, I think definitely adds to that to be able to say, I know what you need to do. Here's how we need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got somebody like Kilmer who is fantastic in what he does. And so, can take that direction and crush it.
And again, I think that's one of the reasons why when you get to the final confrontation of this movie with Val Kilmer and Michael Biehn, I think that was probably supposed to be Wyatt Earp in that scene at some draft of this movie. But when such a great reveal when he comes out of the shadows and says,
"Yes, it's a very Legends of the Fall moment." Yeah,
it's a fist in the air, like yeah, he did the line, and he's gonna kill this guy. Like yeah, that's what we want to see. I think it's one of the great like fist in the air like character entrances in a movie is Val Kilmer coming back as Doc Holliday and saying I'm your huckleberry. It's so good.
I will say though that last scene of him going against Michael Bihn's character and whatnot, just you look at him, he's like he should not. Number one, he's sick. 2, he should not be as good as he is or whatever. But just the way, you're used to seeing like your atypical gunslinger he's definitely not that. And to be able to basically do that hip shot, that gun is barely, it's like 6 inches from the holster or whatever, to be able to shoot up and get him in the head. Like that. I just sat there and I was like, okay, that was amazing.
He's the fastest gun in the West, baby.
Yeah.
I guess that we haven't really touched on the ending of the movie. What did you guys think of the scene between Russell and Kilmer in the hospital, and then the actual conclusion, which should have been swapped?
Yeah, no, that should have been the end of the movie. Was in the hospital for sure. The whole Hallmark movie ending with them kissing in the snow. Barf. No, don't need that.
Save that for Christmas Chronicles 2.
Yeah, right.
I just like the fact you're like the Hallmark movie. I was like, what did we do? Oh, yeah, that would make, that's straight up Hallmark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even on Christmas, like it's set during Christmas time, like all Hallmark movies too.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Well, especially it's like all Hallmark movies. I don't know how we're gonna do it. We'll figure out a way. Oh, by the way, my family's rich.
Yeah. Unnecessary. Yeah.
I do want to see Kurt Russell in a Hallmark movie now.
No.
Him and Goldie Hawn in a Hallmark movie would crush.
It would be amazing. Yeah. I mean, I watch it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry to say it, but some Hallmark movies are where some careers go to die or live longer than they probably should.
Hey, they've gotten some names in those.
I stand by my previous statement.
Yeah.
Hey, man, Rob Lowe and Neil Patrick Harris did some Hallmark Christmas movies, and their careers.
Some people are impervious to it. Other people get stuck in the Lifetime Hallmark, and they will never be seen again unless it is those two things.
Yeah, but I do think those two scenes should have been switched around. I think the heart of the movie is the relationship between Doc and White Earp, and
it's a better love story for sure.
It is totally a better love story.
Yes,
good bromance.
Or we should have ended with Zane and the other guy hooking up at the end. Like that should have been the.
Well, he's dead.
Zane's
so
dead. Zane's dead by then.
He could have come back. He was acting. He was an actor. He was acting.
He was acting so that way Earp would get his like little momentum going. I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
He was the catalyst.
Oh. He's one of the best out there, that Billy Zane.
He would agree with you. Yeah.
He
Billy Zane is Billy Zane's biggest fan. He is Billy Zane's sexiest man alive 54 years running. Yeah.
I want to clip this and just a little bit right here and tag him on like Twitter or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
He was actually going to do. He was doing a movie in South Dakota a few months ago, and they were looking for extras. And I was like, oh man, I would love to go to meet Billy Zane and be an extra in this movie.
Absolutely.
Right?
I would just like to comb his hairpiece. Yeah, I just want to be in the same room.
Can I rub your bald head? Anyway, that was Tombstone, 1993, kicking off our Kurt Russell month. Recommends from all three of us, I presume.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Take that, Blake Ginnethan. This movie's good.
But that's okay. Blake can be our huckleberry.
Blake is our huckleberry, but he does agree Val Kilmer slaps in this movie, so he at least gets bonus points for that.
There's so much slapping and pistol whipping in this movie for a movie about gun control ? It's very odd. Yeah.
Real men fight with their hands.
And their skin wagons.
They get all sweaty and fight with their hands.
I'm still not Googling that.
Don't. Please don't.
Nope, I can't. Yeah.
I'm going to tell somebody else to do it.
Yeah.
Google this for me because I don't want it in my search history.
I'll Google it at work. I'll let you guys know.
Great place to look it up at.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
All right, so let's wrap up this episode on Tombstone here. Again, we are kicking off Kurt Russell month. We have 3 more weeks of Russell movies to talk about, and I'm stoked for it. This is as soon as we had this topic, I think Derek brought it up in the chat that Russell should be a topic of discussion.
You and I were already talking about December. We figured out December. We hadn't even done November. And he's like, well, the Christmas Chronicles, Kurt it is.
I'm like, yeah, Kurt Russell, let's do it. So if you want to hear the rest of those episodes and any other episodes of our show, please subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Google, Amazon Music, and on YouTube. And if you can leave us a rating or review on any of those that have those available, please do so. Let us know if you like it, if you dislike it. Do you want to see more sweaty movies like us? Let us know. Also, check us out on backlot605.com. That's where you can check out our latest movie news, reviews, articles, discussions. Coming Soon is up there every week. So go check us out there. And also become a patron on Patreon. That's what I was going for. You can join us on there, patreon.com/backlot605. If you join our $5 tier, you will get a bonus Kurt Russell movie at the end of this month. It could be Overboard. I mean, we could eventually discuss it. It has not been decided yet. But if you join...
Right.
I feel like you just decided it, but...
So this is up to our Patreons who are listening to the show. If you're at the $3 or $5 tier, we are going to put up a poll on which Kurt Russell movie you would like us to discuss on the Patreon bonus episode. So Overboard is on that list of possibilities. I think Used Cars is sort of the leader going into this, but who knows? Who knows which one we could be talking about?
Depends what's voted.
That was just because Overboard wasn't on there yet. So once it's on there, people will just pick that.
Let's thank our patrons. We have a few patrons we'd like to thank. We got to thank Logan, Blake, Derek, and Andy for being patrons for the show. Again, those four will be choosing. I know two of them already have votes already set, even though the poll is not out. It is up to any other patrons that want to skew the votes any other direction. So please join us on Patreon. And we have a lot of fun on there and post some special things that are not seen anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Brian, where can they find us on social media?
Find us on the atypical social media: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Backlot605. You can also check us out and join the conversation with the South Dakota Film Community Group and on Facebook as well, where we just like to throw stuff out there and see what people are doing and thinking and saying about movies.
Mm-hmm. All right. And Lou, where can they find you and the podcast?
Well, yeah, if you want to listen to my podcast, it's anywhere you listen to podcasts, like all the ones you just mentioned, where you can find Backlot 605, you can find Local Lou. And then I'm on Instagram at Local Lou Podcast.
Awesome. And thank you so much for joining us on this episode. I'm glad we had a person who actually studies history on a historical type of episode, so that was good to have.
Yeah, thanks so much for asking me, guys. So
as opposed to getting hate mail, you got it all wrong.
No, this is great. I was so excited. I listened to you guys a lot. So fun to be on.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you. And we will definitely have you back. And then the last question I'll leave with you is, if you could pick a series for us to do, what would you like to see us cover?
Maybe a 10-part series on Overboard.
10-parter. So does that include the remake too? In one of
yes,
those
actually, yes. Mm-hmm. Yep, it does now.
All right.
Yeah.
I will just say is I've never watched the remake because it's not that I have anything against Anna Faris, but I have a problem with some remakes where I'm like, but I really like the original, and you didn't have to do that.
But since they switched the roles, it works. Yeah. It's not a great movie. Okay, so it doesn't work in that way. But it works as something to watch on a Friday night.
Fair enough.
All right, so look out for our 10-parter on Overboard coming up sometime soon. But next week, we're going to continue Kurt Russell month as we're talking the Kurt Russell family film from Disney, Sky High. Sky High.
And I love the fact that we have Kurt Russell coming back to Disney since he started out as a Disney kid.
Mm-hmm.
I like that little bit of that full circle kind of thing and whatnot.
One of the full success stories too. Like he didn't end up some awful human being.
He didn't end up as some drug-induced under the bridge kind of guy.
Right. At least, as far as we know.
Yeah, right.
If he did, he's damn good at hiding it.
Well, he's a good actor. That's why.
True. That's true.
Yes. And the good thing is number one, I had already seen this movie and I've already seen it again here, so we're good to go. I'm actually well prepared for Sky High, and I look forward to talking about Sky High.
Yeah, so that is next week's Sky High, continuing Kurt Russell month here on Backlot 605. Once again, thank you so much to Lou for joining us this week to talk about Tombstone. This was a blast. And for Brian Mensing, I'm Casey Kelderman. We'll see you guys next time on the Backlot of South Dakota.
Bye.
And we're your huckleberry.